everyone, again, that as we look at the Digimon reference manual going through the different Digimon. It is, of course, me, Walter. I also go by Neon the Fox 1-2 here on Botluck Productions. As many of you are aware, part of the way how this stream works is I look at a Digimon design, I give my commentary on it, I read the description, I give what I would change with the design, what I like about the design, what I dislike about the design, and of course we go from there, kind of ruminate on the design for about 30 seconds, and then we move on to the next Digimon. Currently we are going through the champions. Last we checked was Blade Kawagamon. Before we begin, we'd like to go over a few news updates. Still working on the Discotheque review. I am hoping to get something out by either the end of this month or next month. We'll see how things go. These reviews do take a little bit of time. Hopefully I'll be able to pick up production as time goes on, but we'll see. Other little things. As of currently, we have 400 subscribers. That's quite impressive to go where we are. If we hit 500 subscribers, I'm going to look into opening up a Discord that will be open for you all. And then we'll go on to the next, hopefully the next milestone, which will be the grand 1,000 subscribers. But also, in addition to looking to the Discord page, I'll see about doing another commentary on my reviews. This time I think it will probably be some of the Digimon reviews, although I'll have to see where I ended on the last commentary. It's been a while. So, without further ado, we're going to start moving on next into the champions. Oh, and before anyone asks, Armor Digivolutions are going to be their own separate stream. This is because while a lot of armors are champions, kind of, I haven't seen a lot of armors in here, and it wasn't until I noticed on the reference manual that armor is considered its own category. So with that in mind, armors will be its own category. And with that, we'll be starting with the first Digimon of the day, Blimpmon. So, Blimpmon is a vehicle species Digimon like Mechanoramon that can... Hi, Renamon565. Is a vehicle species Digimon like Mechanoramon that can fly leisurely through the sky. Its soft blimp body is protected by a metal coating, but it appears to still be in development, as its left flank remains exposed. Its signature move is Helium Bomb, which involves shooting out bombs filled with helium gas that causes them to explode. Its special move is Zeppelin Explosion, where it fires cannonballs from 2 cannons on top. So, first thing, it wouldn't be helium. For those who don't know, Zeppelins... The reason Zeppelins died out was due to hydrogen and helium. Helium was something that the US had a wide access to, but this was something that Germany and a lot of other countries did not have access to. So a lot of dirigibles used hydrogen, which is lighter than air, but also explosive. Helium, though, is an inert gas, so it doesn't cause an explosion. So I'm thinking this helium bomb, that's a mistranslation, and it's supposed to say hydrogen. Well, no, that makes sense. Because if you say hydrogen bomb, you imply nukes, which, given Japan. So I think that's a misunderstanding, but these happen. As for the design itself, it's a Zeppelin. A dirigible. The design does say that its left flank is still under construction. I'm going to have to go off the description because as far as I can tell, the Zeppelin... I'm going to assume the right side... Either it is repaired or it's the same. This is one of the weird things with looking at the artwork of Digimon. Some of it looks good, other times it's what are we looking at? So I'm going to go off of the description and assume the other side's armored up. Things I like about the design, it's an airship. It's interesting that they state that it's a dirigible. The brown with the cloth gives it a somewhat steampunk design to it, with a little bit of diesel punk, which I like. You don't see too much steampunk anymore, which, yeah, okay, it could be worse. Things I don't like about the design, I would almost say if you're going to have make it symmetrical, don't make it that one side is uncovered and the other side is covered. Either show that in the art or imply that it's symmetrical, because this really doesn't work, I feel, from a design standpoint. Other things I don't like, I think the dual... Well, no, that is indicative of an airship. Those were present. I think the problem with the design is it seems to be going between either an airship or a Zeppelin. And by airship, I mean something like from Skies of Arcadia or an Eggman airship. And that's a bit hard to go with it. If I were to change it, I would say either make this fully armored or make both sides unarmored. Because it's a bit weird to have it asymmetrical. Other than that, it's an okay design. It's a bit big for a champion, I think. I think this works better as an ultimate, but I believe there is a Digimon that this Digivolves that's basically an airship, but more completed. So I'm gonna say what I like about the design. I like the steampunk-esque, diesel-punk-esque aesthetic. I don't like that it's implied that only one side is uncovered. I kind of would prefer if both sides were covered or uncovered. And if I were to change the design, I would say both sides need to be covered or uncovered. And as always, this is of course a community stream. If you all watching would like to comment, you can. I'm right here. Excuse me, I'm going to go remove this jacket. It's a little hot at the moment. Let me get off camera. Sorry about that. I was sweating a bit. So, as always, we'll give it about 30 seconds to ruminate on the design, as well as give me time for my throat to rest. And as always, if you guys would like to comment, you can. I do like hearing your guys' input on things, suggestions, ideas, that sort of stuff. Water. And that was 30 seconds. So we're moving on to the next Digimon. Whoa, what's going on here? I hope my internet's not messing up. Next up is Bomber Nanimon. This seems to be a subspecies of Nanimon that invaded from another dimensional digital world, but the truth is unclear. As Bomber Nanimon's name implies, its entire body became a bomb during its continuous battles in the digital world. Another feature is the hair on top of its head, which is now a fuse. Bomber Nanimon uses its special move, 3-throw bomb, to toss a sure-hit grenade, and KO punch to throw out a powerful explosive punch. So, again, we have a recolor. We know how I dislike recolors. At least in this instance, they try to make the design work by saying that it's one of those iron ball bombs. And I'm almost certain this is somewhat a reference to Bomberman, although I do believe there is a Bomberman Digimon. Things about the design. I've never really been a big fan of Nanimon, but I will say I do like that they implemented the fire in the hair to really give the idea that this is an explosion. The red and yellow coloration on the shoes and the hands are a very traditional wrestling appearance, which I'm okay with. The fuse, okay, it gives out that this is a bomb. I will say if I was running a fireworks company, I may accidentally use Bomber Nanimon as a fireworks thing. Like Bomber Patrol or something, or Bombers, or Bomberman. Yeah, Bomberman. It really does feel like a firework mascot, and it works in that case. Sorry, I had a pop-up from my antivirus. Things I like that it feels like a fireworks mascot. I think that works beautifully. What I don't like, well, for one, it's a recolor, although they did make the recolor work. Um, I think what I dislike about it, other than that it's Nanimon, uh, I think I would have liked to see more definition between the mouth and the body, because right now the mouth just kind of disappears. If I were to change it, I would probably make... Well, no, that presents a problem. I think if I were to change this, I would almost omit the mouth. Just make it like a closed area. Sort of like Vector Man from the Genesis. Otherwise, it's an okay design. I think the problem with it for me is it's Nanimon, and I'm not a big fan of Nanimons. So, the thoughts? So things I like that it looks like a fireworks mascot. I like the implementation of color. I don't like that there's not much differentiation between the mouth and the body, and if I were to change it, I think I would omit the mouth. Is the Gun Digimon a champion of our ultimate level? I think Deputy Mon is a champion. I think. It has been a while, but I could be wrong. One of the problems with looking at Digimon is what you might think is a champion or a low-level Digimon might end up being a higher-level Digimon. Marine Andromon is a good example of that. It also throws me in a loop because I run a D&D campaign that uses Digimon, and it gets weird when I see a Digimon that I really like, but the level is low. Or I see a Digimon that I don't like, and it's actually a very high-level Digimon. It's a design thing. We're going to give it another 30 seconds. But yes, I think if you're talking about Deputy Mon, I think he is a champion. Ooh. I am so glad I removed that jacket. And with that, we're moving on to the next Digimon. Hopefully we'll be able to reach... What? The... Something's not right. Okay, alright, I see what happened. I accidentally pressed this right here. We're going next to Boogieymon. Boogiemon, a mysterious wizard Digimon. Boogiemon's body is covered in a large number of evil spell tattoos, and it can be used as many spells as it has tattoos. This coward never fights head-on, always ambushing foes from the darkness and attacking without warning. Boogiemon uses its special move, Death Clash, to stab at the enemy with its trident in its right hand. So, basically, we're looking at a... Oh, what do I think? A death metal fan. No, not death metal. Well... I'm going to say it right now, I don't listen to a lot of music, so when I say metal, I have to remind myself there are lots of different forms of metal. So here we have an average Slipknot fan, I think. The point is, he's got a lot of tattoos. We have a very traditional depiction of a devil with red wings, trident. Very traditional. I'm intrigued by the fact that the tattoos are an element of what he does. What I like about the design, it's a traditional devil. It's very easy to say, hey, this is a demon, because you look at someone like Devimon and he looks more like a BDSM guy, or like that, or like, I think he's an F-Zero. I forget his name. Devil Doom? No, that's Shadow. What the point is, it looks like some weird BDSM thing. This looks like an actual demon, and I will give props to the design element. What I don't like, as much as I think the tattoo element is an interesting concept, I do think it overly complicates the design a bit. I think it would work better to just have more generic stripes or something to help add to that definition. If I were to change the design, I think I would make the trident a bit larger, and I would probably work a little bit better with the wings. The reason I say that, this is just the art style as is. One of the problems we've seen with Digimon is sometimes the art they use isn't the best. I think I would do a better job of depicting the wings, because they're a bit like, this wing right here almost looks like he has a head crest, which we know isn't the case. I would say either omit the wings or move them into a better place where it doesn't conflict with the design. Other than that, I will say I will give this a perfect, just partially because I like the concept and the design. Like I said, I like this design. I think as a champion it works. It reads a little bit better than Devimon in my opinion, but that's just me. So, things I like the traditional demon aesthetic. I think they could have done a better job with the tattoos to maybe just make them stripes. And if I were to change it, I would make the trident larger and move the wings into a better position. But yeah, I would say this is sort of a perfect element of a champion. 30 seconds. Whew. So now that the 30 seconds have gone by, we're going to move on to the next Digimon. Bulkmon. Bulkmon is a Digimon that digivolved from the data of a body composition analyzer designed to measure muscle mass. Extremely aggressive, it has hyper-developed upper body muscles that allow it to generate some serious power, making it a top class amongst champion-level Digimon. Despite its bulk, it can move with an explosive force to overwhelm enemies with both speed and power. Bulkmon works hard, only stopping its training to eat or sleep. Its special move, Electrical Fist, is a lightning charge punch that sends enemies flying. If an opponent tries to keep their distance, they will find themselves in the end of Thunder Dread, a blast of lightning Bulkmon discharges from its horn. So this came out again from the Vita bracelet. Pulsemon was, I believe, its rookie form, which was more of a Sonic design. This we're going more towards a more traditional Digimon design. You know, taking the rookie, muscularizing it, and making it tougher. I do see a bit of Raidramon or Raidendramon, the armor evolution of Vmon with friendship, I believe, which is I think an interesting reference. I believe that's intentional. So I like that aspect of it. What I don't like, so I like that element that they almost imply it's connected to Raidramon or Raidenmon. What I don't like about the design, while they gave it that it's this bulked up Digimon, I think they could have done better to show that it's speeding, because the description describes that it runs. Yes, Pulsemon is the rookie to Bulkmon. Okay. I think they needed to do a bit of a better job indicating that this is a runner in addition to a fighter. I would almost say maybe add the shoes, maybe with the claws coming out to imply that, you know, Bulkmon has run so much that the shoes are starting to wear out. I know that. I do some running, and those running shoes do wear out over time. Little thing in the Navy, the shoes I use to run, the soles are actually splitting off from the shoe. So, yeah, running does wear those shoes out. So I think that would have been an interesting addition to show that he's exercising everything. So what I would probably change, I would probably add in those shoes. And in addition, I might add some element of the Crest of Friendship, or of Vmon, to show that connection. A little bit more of a connection between this Digimon and that Digimon. Almost implying that Bulkmon is imitating Raidramon, or possibly even somehow connected to Raidramon. As is, I'll give it another perfect, because I do like that connection to Pulsemon. So, things I like the connection to Raidramon and the fact that it takes that element. What I dislike is it doesn't imply speed, just power, and I would like to see more of speed. And if I were to change this, I would add in worn out shoes on the feet and probably even more references to Raidramon. That's just me. So, 30 seconds. By the way, I apologize if Raidramon isn't the name of that Digimon. US localization is weird. So the 30 seconds have passed. And I pressed the wrong button again. What is today? I'm messing up bad. Bergamon. The Digivolution of Rookie Bergamon with pure heart formed from carefully selected ingredient data. This kind Digimon lives to cook and serves up its delicious creations to other Digimon free of charge. Special moves include Spicy Onion, by which it hurls onion slices coated in pepper at the enemy, causing them to lose their fighting spirit. And Delicious Patty, by which it slams the enemy into a gigantic hamburger patty. Okay, so they're referencing that one video game. I believe that video game was like Hamburger Pete or something. Hold on. Burger Time. So, I think this is supposed to be somewhat of a reference to Burger Time, going off of one of the attack, as well as the fact that this Bergamon is holding a sausage, which was one of the enemies in that game. I'm only assuming that that's the connection. I could be wrong. Things about this design, it's interesting that they took the young Bergamon and made it so that they're more mature. The problem I have with this design... So, I'll say this. I like that they imply that connection. What I dislike is... So, this is something Digimon... Wonder Bergamon burgers are better than a Krabby Patty. Given what I had at Wendy's with the Krabby Patty, it probably is better. Yeah, the Wendy's Krabby Patty was just not really great. I will say I would almost suggest that they make these two Bergamons separate, because this feels more like an NPC kind of situation where they wanted to show it like a Digimon Barbamon situation, and I'm almost wondering if that was the original idea, but that at some point they said no, make them one Digimon, which is fine, but now you have two Digimon that are technically the same, but they're different, which is a weird thing to say. So I would almost say in this instance, make them two separate Digimon. Like maybe Bergamon Chef Bergamon, or Chef Bergamon Cook Bergamon, or something. To kind of show that they're two separate sides of cooking. But that's just me. If I were to change the design, I think I would make these two separate. Make them two separate Digimon, again, with different distinctions. Otherwise, I like the concept. I'm assuming this is a reference to Burger Time. I like that they show that connection to the rookie Bergamon, but I do wish that these were two separate Digimon, implying two separate elements of just restaurants. And if I were to change this, I would say make these two separate Digimon. Separately, they work. Together, it kind of muddles things. So, 30 seconds on the clock. And I will say, hopefully we can reach Deputymon, because that will be interesting. Although I will like to see how far we have to Digimon. Because Digimon might be far down. You can be surprised what letters Digimon have. So, moving on. Centarumon. A half-man, half-beast Digimon resembling a centaur. Centarumon's body is protected by a sturdy substance emitted from inside its body, and its right arm is fused with its weapon. It blows high concentrated gas from the ducts sticking out of its back to move ahead at speeds close to the speed of sound. It excels in attack, defense, and speed. Pride means everything to Centarumon, and it hates being ordered or bound by anything with a passion. Its special move, Hunting Cannon, is fired from the cannon fused to its right arm. This attack is almost impossible to evade, but it consumes a massive amount of energy, so Centarumon avoids battle as much as it can. Okay, that's an interesting concept. Centarumon is one of the earlier Digimons. We know this because they appeared in Digimon Adventure. He was actually one of the allies of the kids, although he didn't really do that much. Even in Tri, Centarumon does not do much. He's one of the weird side characters. Things about the design I like. I will say I'm intrigued that they didn't go with a basic centaur. They went more with... It looks like a centaur, but they added their own spin on it, like with the armor and the engine coming out of the back. It's certainly creative and a bit different than a traditional centaur. What I don't like is it's incredibly busy. The blue parts on it are a bit much. The arm cannon, while I do like the idea that it's fusing in, I do think it's a bit too much and a bit too complicated as a read. Overall, it's a very complicated design in my opinion. What I would change, I would probably add more elements of armor to sort of kind of remove some of the complexity in the design. Because right now, this blue, it makes it a bit difficult to read at times. Now, that could just be the artwork, which again is a problem we have with Digimon, which we've been seeing. But, again, I like the idea that it's a centaur, but it's a little different. But I think the blue, it reads more insect than centaur. So, things I like that it's not a traditional centaur, that they really played around with the design. I dislike the complexity that these blue elements add, and if I were to change it, I would probably simplify elements like adding extra armor, or maybe even omitting some of these blue orbs. And with that, I'll give it the 30 seconds. And remember, guys, if you want to comment or bring your own opinions on these things, you can. I do like hearing what you guys have to say. It does, I hate to say, but it does bring up engagement, and it's always interesting to see what you guys say. I'll also give it another 30 seconds because I'm talking a lot. I'm going to check something real quick. We're going to give it another 30 seconds. And with that, we are moving back into the champions. So next we have is Shamblamon. A vegetation Digimon in the shape of a mushroom with extremely potent poison. No one knows whether it digivolved from Mushroomon or if it's a completely different Digimon line. Though it is often dismissed as weak, Shamblamon can be very tricky Digimon to battle. With Sweet Spore, it releases spores that stick to any threats that carelessly approach it. These spores sprout into mushrooms that absorb the foe's vitality. If one picks and eats the fungi, they'll find it brimming with energy. Among them, the most delicious is said to be the data-type mushrooms. Shamblamon releases mushroom-shaped explosives of many different sizes at once in its Shambla Bomb move. The resulting fumes and s'more will transform the area into a bed of mushrooms. So, quick aside, please don't go mushroom hunting. Unless you know exactly what you are doing, do not go mushroom hunting. It is very dangerous. You can be detrimental to your health unless you know exactly what you're looking for and what they are. Please do not go mushroom foraging. Please. Do it with an expert or someone who knows what they're doing, because there are so many stories of people that go mushroom hunting. And I say that because of this whole eating mushroom to get strength. As for design, we have a Mushroom-mon, it's a recolor. I will say it's interesting that for a poisonous mushroom, they didn't add the death cap, or the traditional red and white mushroom, although I think that's Mushroom-mon. It's standard mushroom. Actually, the little orbs on his shoe and arms kind of remind me of bonding studs on Space Marine armor. But that's unintentional in my opinion. It is interesting and I like it. It adds almost like a piercing effect to the Digimon. The skull and crossbones is a good point to bring up that this is a poisonous Digimon, as is the hot pink, which shows this is not a natural color, please don't eat this. So I like it's almost a metal looking Digimon, like metal as in heavy metal. What I don't like about the Digimon, I think the cap is a bit too simplistic. I think they should add maybe add some of the bonding studs to that. Otherwise, it's an okay design. If I were to change this, I would probably add some of these bonding studs to his gloves to make it almost like a brass knuckle or knuckle duster appearance, because this feels a bit limited and I'd like to see more to it. I will give it the perfect, which is weird for recolor. So things I'd like to see, things I like the heavy metal appearance of the Digimon. What I don't like is the head doesn't have a lot of difference to it. And if I were to change it, I would add some heavy metal studs to the knuckles. So, 30 seconds. I'm gonna have some water. Remember to drink water. It is hot out there. And with that, we're moving on to the next Digimon. Clockmon. A guardian of time that governs computer timers, Clockmon manages all time and space on computers and networks and can move time forward and backwards freely between the years 1990 and 1999. It always maintains a neutral stance due to this incredibly dangerous and terrifying ability, refusing to take part in conflict between vaccine and virus Digimon. Many think that if Clockmon were to lean towards either side of this equilibrium, the digital world itself would collapse. He uses his special move, Chrono Breaker, to destroy the very time flowing in the enemy's body. Digimon whose time is stopped by this technique can never recover. Okay, so first off, Clockmon, it's 2015. I think your powers are a bit weakened. You can return back to the Matrix. I think Agent Smith needs you to keep Neo and Trinity in the 90s. That aside, also just for Transformers things, the years 2005. Yeah, that happens in the movie. Things about the Digimon. So Clockmon is a very common Digimon that appears in the cartoons. He was in Adventure, and I think at O2. He reappears in Tamers. I don't remember seeing him in Frontier. I know he's important in Ghost Game because he's an antagonist. So he is a highly reoccurring Digimon. Things I like about the Digimon, I like the clock aesthetic, the analog ringing clock. You don't see those too often. I used to have one. They're pretty nice, if a bit more of a novelty. The gun arm is an interesting thing. In fact, the entire design reminds me of the mech walkers from SA2. What I don't like this guy on top. I get it's supposed to change the design a little bit, but I think it overcomplicates the design. And I think and with the eye, it's hard to say which one's the Digimon. Is this the Digimon or is this the Digimon? And I would say if I were to change it, I would make it that this is more of a mecha and this Digimon is more of the controller. Because right now it doesn't really read like that. So, and that's what I would change. Overall, it's a good design. I wouldn't say it's the perfect because it's a bit too complicated. It feels like two Digimon, similar to like a Chumon. A Chumon and Zakomon. I forgot what that Digimon's called. Hold on. Sukamon. Zakomon. Oh, that'd be interesting. A Digimon that's a Zaku. Although that's just SD Gundam. So, things I like about the design. I like the simplicity in it, and it reminds me of a mech suit. What I don't like is they don't do a good feeling of separation between the head and the main body. And if I were to change it, I would make this read more like a mecha. So that's my take on it. 30 seconds. And like I said, if anyone wishes to comment, you may. And with that, we move on to the next Digimon. Okay, I'm looking at it now. We probably aren't going to get to Deputymon this session. We'll probably get to him next session. Coeliamon. Or Celiomon. An ancient fish Digimon with tough skin and enormous claws. Is the lower half of him a clock? Yes. It's supposed to be a clock. Let me go back to that Digimon. For those who don't know, because most clocks don't look like this anymore, the lower half of Clockmon is supposed to look like a clock. They used to sell them all the time. They're an analog clock. The way how they'd work is you'd have 4 hands. One of them was a hand that you can maneuver around the face, and that was how you would set the time. Problem is you didn't have an AM or PM setting on this. So as far as the clock was concerned, it would once it hit that time setting, it would immediately set off. They're fun to use and they're actually pretty neat. The problem is, again, you only have about 12 hours to work with. So if you're looking for a specific time, AM or PM, it doesn't really work. Then again, you got 12 hours. But yeah, that's Clockmon. So Celiamon, an ancient fish Digimon with tough skin and enormous claws. This Digimon is discovered in the net ocean whenever networks destroyed by evil hackers are repaired. Celiamon's body composition is very primitive, with fins developed into limbs. Based on this, it is thought that primordial Digimon born in the net ocean underwent various evolutionary processes to come onto land, while growing more numerous and differentiating into various types. Celiamon uses its special move, Fossil Bite, to attack enemies with its massive talons. So, if I'm correct with where they're going with this, Celiamon is supposed to be a reference to the coelacanth fish. For those who don't know, the coelacanth it's a type of fish that a lot of scientists had thought was extinct. Not because the specific species was extinct, but if I remember correctly, because of how it survived, because of what it represented. A lot of times in the evolutionary process, things that certain animals have will just disappear because they're no longer useful. Either because evolutionarily that trait is detrimental or it just gets omitted. And in the case of Coeliomon, the coelacanths, if I remember correctly, they were considered a bony fish. There was something, I believe it was due to their scales. There was something about the fish that was implied in earlier evolution in aquatic species. And it was actually found on a fish market, of all places. And from there they found, oh, this is a living fossil. As for the design, okay, we're having an issue because it's a complicated design, artwork-wise. As for the design itself, what I like is they implemented the bony aspect of the coelacanth, and they sort of played around with a fish coming onto land, which is interesting. There are fish that do that. They have lungs that allow them to breathe air. They're considered walking. They're called walking fishes, if I'm correct. By the way, don't quote me on these things. I'm a history major. I was supposed to be bio. I'm not that good in biology. I am sorry. If I'm wrong on this, you can correct me in the comments when this gets archived. I like the metal exterior. It gives it almost a skull appearance, a skeletalized appearance. What I don't like is it's a bit hard to read if this is supposed to be an amphibian or a fish. And I think it would have been better to kind of omit the back flippers and just the back legs and just make them flippers. If I were to change this, I would just keep this as a fish with 2 claws up front. As is, I will give it another perfect. We're actually having a lot of perfects today. So things I like that the armor is very much like a skeleton. I don't like that the fins are almost more like feet, making this a quadruped. And if I were to change it, I would omit those feet to really read that this is more of a somewhat amphibious animal. That's my phone. So we're going to give it 30 seconds. And with that, we've gone through Coeliomon. I'm calling it Coeliomon because of coelacanth. Next up, we have Cordramon Blue. Oh dear. Digimon with Dramon in their names always have some amount of draconic data in their digicores, and the higher the rate of draconic data to their data to other data, the more the Digimon will resemble a dragon. The data in Cordramon's digicore is 100% draconic, meaning it's a pure-blooded dragon Digimon. Cordramon with blue bodies are said to have digivolved from Dracomon that ate lots of blue diamante, a precious gem that can only be mined from mountainous regions with the highest peaks. Ooh. This type of Cordramon has developed strong wings to survive amid the steep slopes and is capable of flying at great speed. Cordramon Blue's special move include Blue Flare Breath, where it breathes out scorching blue flames, and Strike Bomber, which involves lashing out with its tail to deal a heavy blow to its opponent. Blue Flare Breath breaks down a foe's surface texture data, leaving the digicores of Digimon hit by this move exposed and open to attack. Like Dracomon, Cordramon Blue has Gekirin Fury Scale, and if anything ever touches it there, it will lose itself in a blind rage, attacking indiscriminately with Great Strike 2, which involves making the horns of its head glow brightly before firing a laser beam from its mouth. Okay, so it has a very much this is my cool OC design, aesthetic. As for the design, it's a blue dragon. Going off of Dracomon, I appreciate that the horns have become less of antlers like a chingling and more of like actual horns. So I'm okay with that. They actually look like eyelashes, which is interesting. As for the blue, a bit of a weird choice, and knowing that Cordramon Blue is a recolor kind of puts a damper on this. I think what I like about it is it looks like a dragon. What I don't like is it's a recolor. If I would change it, I would say by making it blue, emphasize something with blue. Either that it's more of an aquatic dragon, or that it's supposed to be more of speed. Like, really make it slendered up. Like, this is an animal that moves fast. Because right now, it just looks like a generic dragon. So things I like that it looks like a dragon and that the horns look like horns. What I don't like is it's a recolor, especially going on to the next Digimon. And what I would change with it is try to make it more slender and more of a speed Digimon. So we're going to give it 30 seconds. That's also why it's not getting the perfect, because it's a recolor. And I don't like recolors. And with that, we move on to the next Cordramon. Cordramon Green. Okay, let's skip through this. Cordramon Green by said to have Digivolved from Dracaulmon that ate lots of green malachite. Crashes Digimon. Thicky whatever's over 100 years old. This type of Cordramon isn't skilled at flying, but has highly developed leg muscles. It's capable of running at speed seemingly impossible for a creature of its size. Its special moves include Green Flare, which bleeds out special scorching green flames, and Strike Bomb, which involve lifing out its tail. Yada yada yada. Punch reduced. Okay. This is just a recolor. And I'm going to say this right now between blue and green. If you're going to say that it has higher speed and that it's not as good at flying, omit the wings. Remove the wings. Make it look more like a Tyrannosaur, I would say. Play up the dinosaurs or dragons thing. The wings should be omitted. It's just a recolor. So things I like the green color. What I don't like is it's a recolor. And it's not even a good one. And what I would change with it is really emphasize the leg element and remove the wings. This is not a design you should be going for, especially when you have Dracaulmon Blue. I can understand if Cordramon has the wings and weaker legs, while Cordramon Green has no wings but stronger legs. As is, it's a recolor. And I'm going to say it right now. Actually, I'm going to remove the perfect design from Cordramon Blue. Neither of these get it. This is not... Concept-wise, it works, but from a design standpoint, it doesn't. They're just recolors. So we're going to give it a 30 seconds. I really need to get a fan in here. Cyclonemon. Cyclone. A one-eyed dragon man Digimon with an abnormally developed right arm. Once a brawny dragon warrior, Cyclonemon had its right eye crushed by the warrior Leomon, transforming it into a demon of revenge. It strengthens and grows its arm larger in order to defeat Leomon and hunts for a chance at retribution. Shedding its pride as a warrior, it is now a maddened combatant who thinks only of slaughter, all for the sake of revenge. Cyclonemon uses its special move, Hyperheat, to melt any and all things. So... it's technically not a Cyclops, because only one of its eyes are gone. It's interesting that they bring up the right arm is more developed. So, things about the design. I like that they're combining both the story of the Digimon with its design. We see that every now and then, and in this case, I think it works well. What I don't like, I normally would say the eye should be in the center to be like a Cyclops, but knowing the story, this works. What I don't like is maybe the arms. I would almost say try and make both arms symmetrical. Maybe make the right arm more armored up to imply that that's the one he's really training rather than this, because of the implication. If I were to change the design, for one, I would probably add maybe a crack or a repair on the right eye to imply that, yeah, there was an eye there, but it's been damaged. I would probably make both arms the same height, but maybe make the right arm more damaging. More of a weapon. Overall, I will say this does get the perfect. To me, this feels like a champion, and I do like the concept of the story it tells. So things I like the mixture of design and story with the Digimon. What I don't like is how asymmetrical it is. I'm okay with some asymmetricalness. This seems a bit much. And if I were to change it, I would add a repair element onto the right of the skull and maybe make both arms the same size, but the right arm more of a weapon. And with that, 30 seconds. Oh, and if you ever want to write a story, you have a villain for Leomon. Now I want to use him in my role play against Panjimon. Oh, that would be interesting. Remember to drink water. And with that, we're going to move on to the next Digimon. Damemon. Oh wow, that is a lot of words. Okay. Damemon was born when waste data drifted through the digital world combined randomly. Its favorite phrase is no good, and it has the unfortunate habit of criticizing everyone around it, regardless of the time or place. Though Damemon is perhaps best described with its own phrase, it somehow manages to get by with the help of its partner, Choo-Choo-Mon. It's only with Choo-Choo-Mon's help that Damemon can even manage to function as a halfway decent Digimon. Choo-Choo-Mon sits in the Tiu-Tiu tray in the back of Damemon's head, taking Damemon around to various places where they can have fun. When these two Digimon are together, every day is a priceless treasure. Damemon's special move, Buzzing Fists, primarily consists of it spinning its tonfas around. It almost never hits anything, and it's better suited to intimidating foes than dealing damage. Similarly, its Gun Vulcan involves disheartening and discouraging foes rather than injuring them. The attack consists of firing a small black substance with foul odor from the hidden guns in its feet and tonfas. Since Damemon has to clean up this mysterious substance afterwards or risk angering the Digimon who live in the area, it is also careful about using this special move. Finally, its Boost attack, which involves releasing large volumes of foul-smelling gas while charging forward, is wildly unpredictable, and not even Damemon knows where it'll end up. When it does hit an enemy, the damage combined with the smelly gas tends to leave them thoroughly demoralized. Ah! Wow, that is a lot. Okay, so we have a golden turd here. There's no other way to describe it. It is a golden turd mech. Things about this design I like. It's certainly creative that they made a shit mech. I'll give them that. And they added in Choo-Choo-Mon. What I don't like is we've gone a bit too far with the Sukamon joke. Can we please move on from the feces joke? Because this is just a bit much. And if I were to change it, Um, I would not make it a mecha turd. Something other than a mecha turd, because this is... No. I don't like this design. It continues the Digimon poo joke, and that joke is getting old very fast. And also because you had me read that entire profile. So, what I like, certainly creative. What I don't like, it's the poo joke Digimon keeps going with. And what I would change is make it something other than the poo joke, because it's getting tiring. 30 seconds. Whew, we are not staying on this Digimon for long. Please do not make me stay on this Digimon. I need to get a fan in here. And with that, we're moving on to our next Digimon, who I'm just going to say is going to be our last Digimon. So, Diarkmon. A lower-class angel Digimon with the appearance of a woman. As the vanguard of angel Digimon, Diarkmon's tendency to cut through the front lines to fight has earned it the moniker Goddess of the Battlefield. Its special move, Dancing Sword, is a grand sword technique using its thin sword, La Pucella. I don't know what that translates to. So, for those who don't know, Diarkmon is a reference to Joan of Arc, or Joan d'Arc, Catholic saint, the Catholic saint of France. And to me, it's always interesting to see the different depictions of Joan of Arc, especially in Japan, because Joan of Arc is like the perfect design from a story perspective for a magic girl. Which is weird to say as a Catholic. It's interesting that they say, oh, she's a low-level angel. That's interesting. Diamond is my new favorite Digimon. Oh, you. Yeah. Oh, you. Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Xeou. Diarkmon, I like Diarkmon because she is a reference of Joan of Arc. Things I like about the design, I like that they tried to work some they basically took Joan of Arc, which is a design aesthetic I like to see. What I don't like about the design, it doesn't read Joan of Arc. Well, I'll say what I like. This staff almost implies like a banner or magic girl wand. What I don't like about the design is it doesn't really read Joan of Arc. And if the reason I say that is they basically took what was basically a Angelwoman. They gave her a little bit more. They basically have her wearing a two-piece and a loincloth. They added some armor and the scarf and the like. And I think in the case of Joan of Arc, if you're going to work with that, you almost have to add in armor. The reason I like Fate Grand Order's Joan of Arc is it's a very good depiction as to what Joan of Arc was. You know, a girl wearing men's armor. And I think they could have I think they would have done a good job of taking that aesthetic. Still show the feminine, showing Diarkmon feminine, but adding in extra armor. If I were to change this design, I would add in more armor. Maybe add it... basically, look at what... Actually, I'm going to bring it up. I can find an official artwork. I would say if you're going to go with a Joan of Arc design, you'd be better off doing what Fate Grand Order did. Maybe not necessarily the colors, but just the aesthetic. It's why I like this Jean design. This reads more like a generic angel. And for those who don't know, Joan of Arc is a saint, not an angel. It gets a bit weird, and I'm sure a priest just said I'm wrong on that. Beside the point, what I would change is make her more armored. Keep the color aesthetic and the like, but make her a little bit more armored to read Joan of Arc, rather than just random angel. And I am aware she's connected to Griffinmon because of that one movie. So, and as much as I want to say she gets the perfect, no. The reason she doesn't get the perfect is because of that concept. Again, she's supposed to be a reference to Joan of Arc. And I don't feel they did a good job of that. It feels like they're running that gambit of Andrew Woolman, well, you know. And I kind of would prefer that they didn't do that. But then again, that's me being puritanical, and I need to stop that. But as a reference to Joan of Arc, I think they could add more armor. So what I like with it, I like that they're doing a take on Joan of Arc. What I don't like is it doesn't read like Joan of Arc. It doesn't really take a lot of inspiration like that. What it feels like is they took Griffinmon and tried to say, what if human? For what I would change, I would add more armor and probably go the route of what Fate Grand Order did with Joan of Arc. Before people say, why am I saying Joan of Arc? Darkmon, Joan of Arc, Jeanne d'Arc, Jeanne d'Arc. The French can now crucify me for butchering their language, but the name is a reference to Joan of Arc. And while we're at it, La Posilla. Oh! What do you know? The sword La Posilla, that's basically Joan of Arc. So this design is Joan of Arc. La Posilla is Joan of Arc. Which, yeah. Yeah. I do apologize that I went all Crusader on y'all. I just like seeing how designs go with Joan of Arc. I would almost say Joan of Arc should become one of the patron saints of Japan just for how much Japan likes her. But that's beside the point. With that, we're going to... Actually, you know what? We're going to do one more. As a treat. Dark Lizardmon. A Digimon wreathed in black flames that burn silently around its body. The form of Flarizamon digivolved into this virus type with its cold personality. Its special move, Dread Fire, engulfs the enemy's spirit in dark flames. So it's a recolor. Yay. We've got dark red with the golden mask. This is a very Digimon. I'll say what I like about it. It's fire. It has fire with the skull. What I don't like is it's a recolor. Got the Flarizamon right here. I like that it's a dark... It shows that it's evil. It's almost like a Shao the Hedgehog-esque thing to Flarizamon. But if I were to change this, I would probably add maybe a pauldron with a virus symbol on it. Again, the issue is it's a recolor. And I don't like recolors. So we'll give it 30 seconds. And again, I apologize about going all out on Darkmon. I'm so terribly sorry about that. How are we doing on time? One more. This will be the last one. Just to make it a final bar. Dark Maeldramon. The form taken by Nightmon's servant Maeldramon, having gained power of miracles, abandoned justice, and discovered the righteousness of evil. What? Well, that's certainly edgelordisk. Its chrome Digilord armor stained with darkness, Dark Maeldramon seeks a dark heart within its master Nightmon. It will be obedient to a Nightmon with a strong heart of evil, but even a shred of goodness exists within its master, it will crush it to death with its giant body. Dark Maeldramon uses its special move Dark Wind to flap its torn wings and to rain dark bullets upon the enemy. Okay, so it's an edgelord Digimon. I will say I would almost use this as a champion leading up towards Alphamon just from the color. But then I have to realize it's a Dark Maeldramon, it's connected to Maeldramon, which would mean it's a recolor. What I don't like about the design, I would say it reads a little too much like Alphamon. I would almost omit this thing on the chest, but then again, I realize some people would like to do that for evolution lines. So that's weird. I like that it kind of reminds me of Alphamon, and what I don't like is it reminds me of Alphamon. Weird. What I would change with this, I would just omit that jewel, probably change it to a crest or something else. Otherwise, I'm going to give it the perfect, because it's a pretty cool design. So, yeah. It's weird. I like that it reminds me of Alphamon. I dislike that it reminds me of Alphamon, and if I were to change it, I would add a different crest and maybe remove the jewel. This is a weird design. Hey, these things happen. It can be wild. I really need to set up a fan in here. And with that, we're going to finish. We're finishing off for the day. So next up will be Dark Tyrannomon, and hopefully we'll get to Deputymon. While we're at it, make sure to look up GOG Games Dream List on Digimon World. Because of the amount of voting, it's actually gotten pretty high. And I would highly recommend looking at this, because it would be nice to get the original Digimon World and possibly the other Digimon Worlds onto GOG and Steam. So, if you haven't already, go to the Dream List on GOG and vote for Digimon World. Show Bandai that people are interested in having this game release on PC. In other news, as I said, slowly working on the review of the Discotheque Digimon movies. Hopefully that'll be done either by the end of this month or will be done by next month. In addition, once we hit 500 subscribers, I'll look into opening up a Discord. And from there, we'll see how things go. I really like to see how we'll go with this. And again, like and subscribe, because it really helps. I really want to hit that 1,000 subscriber count at some point, because I like doing these things. I like doing these videos, and I like doing these little commentaries. They're nice to do, and I would like to do more streams. So subscribing, liking, sharing does help spread this around and have people interested in the content. And like I said, remember to vote on Digimon World to come onto GOG. Who knows, I might stream it if it's available. We shall see. And with that, we're gonna come off to the end of the stream. Uh, we'll see. Depending on how things go, the next time I appear, it might be to show the video. It might be another stream. We shall see. So, as I said, like and subscribe, share, and I guess I'll see you in about another 2 weeks. Be safe, y'all.